There is a version of Earth where the sky no longer belongs to the people who live beneath it. It belongs to corporations. It belongs to brands. It belongs to faces printed on billboards, smiling with teeth too wide and eyes too empty. In this world, heroes do not rise from courage. They are manufactured. They are marketed. They are sold to a public too tired to question why the saviors of mankind require sponsorship deals to perform their miracles. This is the world ruled by Vought International, a pharmaceutical empire dressed in patriotic colors, whispering into the ears of presidents, drafting the moral code of an entire civilization one press release at a time. And at the top of that empire stands a single figure, a man with golden hair, a flowing cape, and a smile so practiced it has forgotten what sincerity ever felt like. Homelander, the strongest being on the planet, the face of American virtue, the God who knows, deep beneath his rehearsed grin, that he is not loved, only feared. For years this arrangement has held. The powerful pretend to protect, the powerless pretend to believe, and the lie continues because no one alive possesses the strength or the will to challenge it. Then, on an ordinary afternoon, the sky cracks open. It does not happen with warning. It does not happen with explanation. A jagged seam of green light splits the clouds above New York, humming with an energy no scientific instrument on Earth can measure. Birds fall silent. Traffic halts. Millions of phones rise toward the heavens at once, recording what will soon be called the moment the world changed forever. From within that tier, a figure descends, slowly, deliberately, as though gravity itself has been instructed to wait its turn. He wears emerald and steel. His cloak moves without wind. His mask is iron, and behind that mask, eyes glow with a calm that no human has any right to possess. He does not announce himself. He does not need to. The air around him bends. The cameras struggle to focus. The world holds its breath. Dr. Doom has arrived. The networks scramble. Vaught's analysts panic. Within minutes, anchors are speculating, generals are calling, and somewhere in a glass tower above Manhattan, Homelander is informed that an unidentified being has stepped through reality itself and landed on his streets. The expected reaction follows. A press team is dispatched. A welcoming committee is assembled. The script is the same one used for every visiting dignitary, every foreign hero, every potential asset. Recruit. Control. But Doom does not smile back. Doom does not flatter. Doom looks upon the towers of Vought, upon the screaming billboards, upon the worshipful crowds, and he does something no one has done in this universe for as long as anyone can remember. He laughs. It is not a cruel laugh. It is not theatrical. It is the laugh of a man who has crossed dimensions, conquered nations, defied gods, and now finds himself standing in a kingdom built on cardboard. He sees the propaganda. He sees the cowardice dressed as celebrity. He sees Homelander descending from the sky in a cape stitched by marketing executives, and he is not afraid. He is unimpressed. Across the city, in a private suite high above the clouds, Homelander watches the footage. He watches the laugh. He watches the way the armored stranger turns his back on the cameras as though they are insects. And for the first time in years, something stirs inside him that he does not recognize. It is not anger. It is not envy. It is the quiet, creeping awareness that somewhere in his own city, a man has just looked at him and seen not a god, but a failed ruler. And the question begins to whisper through every screen in the world. Can the most arrogant man in fiction overthrow the most arrogant man in the boys? Doom does not attack. Doom does not threaten. Doom does what he has always done when entering a new battlefield. He listens. In the days that follow his arrival, the world expects spectacle. They expect declarations, demands, ultimatums delivered from rooftops. Instead, the armored figure vanishes from public view. Cameras lose him in alleyways. Satellites lose him over oceans. Vaught's intelligence division, the most sophisticated surveillance network ever built by private hands, finds itself blinded by a man who walked through a tear in the sky less than a week ago. What they do not know is that Doom is already inside their walls, not physically, digitally, spiritually, intellectually. While their analysts argue over grainy footage, his consciousness drifts through their servers like smoke through an unlocked door. Firewalls designed to resist nation-states crumble before algorithms written in a language Earth has not yet invented. Encryption protocols collapse without resistance. Every secret Vought has buried for decades begins to surface in the private chambers of his mind. He reads about compound VAF, the serum that built their empire. The chemical lie injected into infants, into soldiers, into the desperate and the unwilling, transforming flesh into product. He studies the laboratories. He studies the test subjects. He studies the children who did not survive, and the ones who did, and the ones who were sold to families that would raise them as branded merchandise. He uncovers the truth about the seven, not the polished version on television, the real one, the addictions, the quiet payments to grieving widows, the press releases written before the bodies were cold. He maps Vaught's influence across governments, senators on payroll, generals on retainer, foreign leaders quietly indebted, entire wars subtly engineered to keep demand for superhuman intervention high. He sees how the company manufactures crises in order to sell solutions. He sees how heroism itself has been weaponized into a quarterly earnings report. And finally, he studies Homelander, not the icon, the man, the psychological profile beneath the cape, the childhood spent in a laboratory, the absent mother, the fabricated affection, the therapist too frightened to write honest notes, the breakdowns hidden behind smiles, the cracks that widen each year. In his own universe, Doom has ruled. He has conquered. He has shaped Latveria into a nation feared and respected in equal measure. He believes with absolute conviction that power is a responsibility owed to the most capable mind in the room. He does not object to authority. He objects to incompetence dressed as authority. And Vought, in his eyes, is incompetent on a scale he has never witnessed. They control humanity. He could perhaps forgive that. He has done worse in his own time. But they control humanity badly. They squander their dominion. They build their empire on a foundation of secrets that any patient enemy could unravel in an afternoon. They allow their strongest weapon, Homelander, to remain emotionally unstable, surrounded by sycophants who fear him too much to guide him. It is not the cruelty that disgusts Doom. It is the waste. Meanwhile, in the glass towers of Vought, panic begins to spread. Reports trickle in. A military convoy in Nevada, disabled in 12 seconds by an armored figure who never raised his voice. A research facility in Berlin emptied of its files overnight, the cameras showing nothing but a flicker of green light. A weapons prototype designed in absolute secrecy, found neatly dismantled on the desk of the executive who commissioned it, with a single handwritten note left behind. The note reads simply, "Primitive." Executives gather in emergency meetings. Engineers stutter through presentations. Analysts argue over containment strategies. And one by one, a single uncomfortable conclusion begins to form in the back of every mind in the room. They have spent decades fearing the wrong god. Homelander can break a city. This new man can dismantle a civilization, quietly, patiently, without ever raising his voice. And somewhere in the dark, behind a mask of iron, Doom is only just beginning. The meeting is arranged in the only way Vought knows how to arrange anything. With protocols. With a carefully selected venue designed to communicate authority without appearing aggressive. A penthouse high above the city, floor-to-ceiling windows, a long table, bodyguards positioned at every door, knowing full well that if the armored stranger decides to kill someone in this room, none of them will live long enough to draw their weapons. Homelander arrives last. He always arrives last. It is a habit he learned years ago, a small ritual of dominance. The unspoken declaration that the room does not begin until he enters it. He steps through the doors with his cape catching the light, his smile already in place, his eyes already scanning for the smallest sign of fear in the man he has come to meet. He finds none. Dr. Doom is seated, not standing, not pacing. Seated in a high-backed chair that has been arranged at the far end of the table, a chair that looks, in the wrong light, almost like a throne. His armored hands rest on its arms. His cloak spills across the floor. His mask is turned toward the windows, watching the city below as though Homelander's entrance is a minor interruption to a more interesting view. For a long moment, Homelander says nothing. He waits. He has waited like this before, and always, eventually, the other person breaks. They smile too widely. They speak too quickly. They reveal themselves. Doom does not turn his head. When Homelander finally speaks, his voice carries the practiced warmth of 1,000 interviews. He welcomes the stranger. He offers cooperation. He gestures toward the city, toward the resources of Vought, toward the future they might build together. The words are silk. The thread beneath them is iron. Doom listens. When the speech ends, he turns his masked face slowly toward Homelander, and he speaks for the first time. He does not speak about power. He speaks about civilization. He asks Homelander a single question. He asks what, in all his years above this world, Homelander has actually built. The smile flickers, just for a heartbeat. Homelander recovers. He laughs. He lists his accomplishments. The lives saved. The wars prevented. The fear he has held at bay simply by existing. His voice rises slightly, the warmth thinning, the iron showing through. Doom does not interrupt. He waits until Homelander finishes, and then he asks another question. He asks whether any of those acts were chosen, or whether they were assigned to him by the men who own his image. He asks whether the strongest being on Earth has ever, in his entire life, made a decision that did not first pass through a marketing department. The room goes very quiet. Homelander's eyes drift, just for an instant, toward the executives seated along the walls. He sees them looking down at their tablets. He sees them pretending not to have heard. And in that instant, Doom continues. He speaks of the laboratory. He speaks of the mother who never existed. He speaks of the carefully scripted affection given to a child who was raised as a weapon. He does not mock. He does not raise his voice. He describes Homelander the way a surgeon might describe an injury. Precisely. Clinically. With a kind of distant pity that is somehow more humiliating than any insult. He identifies the insecurity beneath the arrogance. The desperate gnawing need to be loved by people he secretly despises. The childish fury that hides behind every smile. The terror of a man who has been told his entire life that he is a god, and who suspects in the deepest hours of the night that he is only a frightened boy in a costume. Every sentence lands like a scalpel. Homelander's hands tighten on the edge of the table. The wood splinters beneath his fingers. The executives stop pretending to look at their tablets. They stop breathing. Doom does not flinch. When the meeting ends, no agreement is reached. No alliance is formed. Homelander rises slowly, his smile carefully reassembled, his voice carefully steadied. He thanks the stranger for his time. He promises that they will speak again. He leaves the room without looking back. In the elevator, alone for the first time since the meeting began, Homelander stands perfectly still. His reflection stares back at him from the polished steel doors. The smile is gone. The cape hangs limp. The eyes, for once, look exactly as old and as tired as they truly are. He is not furious because Doom insulted him. He is furious because Doom understood him. And somewhere, in the deepest part of him, he knows that understanding is far more dangerous than any weapon ever built. Doom does not declare war on Vought. War, in his estimation, is what lesser minds resort to when they have failed to think clearly. He declares something far worse. He declares exposure. It begins quietly. A single document appears on a single journalist's encrypted server, sent from an address that does not exist. The document is internal. It is signed. It is dated. It describes, in clinical detail, the deaths of 3 children during early Compound V trials in the 1970s. The journalist verifies it, then verifies it again, then publishes. Within hours, another document surfaces, then another, then a flood. Across the world, in newsrooms from Tokyo to London, encrypted files arrive without explanation. Financial records, internal memos, surveillance footage. Audio recordings of executives laughing about civilian casualties. Photographs of laboratories that were officially closed decades ago, still operating in basements beneath suburban office parks. The leaks are not random. They are sequenced. Each revelation lands precisely when the previous one has begun to fade from public attention, ensuring that Vought never has a single quiet day in which to recover. Stock prices begin to slide, then to plummet. Investors who once treated Vought shares as safer than government bonds find themselves selling at any price, terrified of what tomorrow's headline might contain. Banks freeze accounts. Insurance companies cancel policies. Foreign governments, eager to distance themselves from a sinking empire, open investigations they had quietly buried for years. Blackmail archives, the private vaults Vought used to control senators and judges, find their way into the hands of the very people who were being blackmailed. Suddenly, politicians who had spent careers protecting the company discover that their leashes have been cut. They turn on Vought with the enthusiasm of men desperate to prove they were never truly owned. Inside the tower, the panic becomes physical. Executives shout at lawyers. Lawyers shout at engineers. Engineers shout at no one in particular. The legal department, which once employed enough attorneys to staff a small nation, finds itself unable to file motions fast enough to keep up with the indictments. The seven begin to fracture. With every new leak, another member finds a private secret made public. Hidden families. Drug habits filmed in hotel rooms long forgotten. They begin to suspect each other. They begin to accuse each other. The carefully managed illusion of a unified team dissolves into open hostility, and the cameras, for the first time in years, capture genuine emotion on their faces. It is not heroism. It is fear. Through all of this, Doom is never seen. He gives no interviews. He releases no statements. He does not gloat. He simply continues, day after day, with the patient rhythm of a man dismantling a clock he has already understood completely. What unsettles observers most is the pacing. Nothing feels rushed. Every leak, every collapse, every public humiliation arrives precisely when it is most damaging. It is as though the events have been scheduled months in advance, as though Doom arrived in this universe already knowing exactly which thread to pull and in what order to unravel the entire tapestry. In a basement bar across the city, Billy Butcher watches the news with a glass in his hand that he has forgotten to drink from. He has spent years of his life, years measured in blood and grief and broken marriages, trying to bring this company down. He has lied, killed, betrayed, and buried friends in the attempt. And now, in a matter of weeks, a stranger in iron armor has accomplished more than he ever managed. He should feel triumphant. He does not. He stares at the screen, at the falling stock tickers, at the perps of men he once swore to destroy, and he feels something cold settle in his chest. Because Butcher, for all his rage, has always believed that destroying Vought would return power to ordinary people. That was the point. That was the whole bloody point. But Doom is not returning power to anyone. Doom is collecting it. And Butcher realizes, with a clarity that frightens him more than any battle he has ever fought, that if this armored stranger wins, humanity will not be freed. It will simply trade one master for another. A more competent one, a more patient one, a more permanent one. Homelander finally stops pretending. The press conferences end. The smiles vanish. The carefully rehearsed apologies that Vaught's public relations team has been writing for weeks are torn up and thrown into the fire. In a private hangar on the outskirts of the city, beneath flickering industrial lights, Homelander gathers what remains of the seven and tells them, in the simplest words he has ever used, that Doom is going to die today. There is no debate. There is no strategy meeting. There is only the cold, electric silence of superhuman beings who have finally accepted that the man in iron will not stop unless they stop him. They find him in the heart of the city. He is not hiding. He has never been hiding. He stands on the steps of a half-ruined federal building, his cloak moving in a wind that no one else can feel, watching them arrive as though their attack is an appointment he has been waiting all morning to keep. The first to strike is the fastest. A blur of motion, a sonic crack, a fist driven toward Doom's mask with enough force to level a building. The fist stops 2 inches from his face. The blur freezes in midair, suspended by a field of green light that hums softly between them. Doom does not move. He merely turns his head slightly, and the speedster is flung backward through 3 city blocks before he stops. The others come at what? Telekinesis. Brute strength. Powers that have defined this world for decades, unleashed simultaneously upon a single man. The street beneath them shatters. The windows of every building for a mile bloom outward in glittering rain. The camera shakes so violently that the footage will later be enhanced for weeks before anyone can make sense of it. And Doom's armor adapts. This is what no one expected. The plates shift. The runes glow. Each attack that strikes him is studied, measured, cataloged, and answered. The first laser leaves a scorch mark. The second laser leaves nothing at all. The first telekinetic blast staggers him. The second passes through him as though he were smoke. Every member of the Seven discovers, within the opening minute of the battle, that they are not fighting an opponent. They are fighting a man who prepared countermeasures for them long before they knew his name. He has read their files. He has studied their weaknesses. He has built, in the quiet weeks of his observation, weapons designed specifically for the unique biology of each one of them. A pulse that disrupts the nervous system of the speedster. A frequency that shatters the concentration of the telepath. A chemical mist, released in a single elegant gesture, that strips the invulnerability from the strongman for exactly the 11 seconds Doom requires. One by one they fall, not killed. Doom does not kill them. He simply removes them from the board with the calm precision of a master ending a game he has already won. And then there is Homelander. The others have failed. The streets are littered with the unconscious bodies of beings once worshipped as gods. The cameras, miraculously still running, capture the moment Homelander descends from the smoke, alone, his cape torn, his eyes glowing red, his face finally stripped of every performance he has ever practiced. For the first time, Doom turns his full attention upon him. What follows is not a fight, it is a collision. Homelander's heat vision carves trenches through the street. Doom's gauntlets answer with bolts of green fire that bend physics into shapes the human eye refuses to accept. They strike each other through buildings. They strike each other through the sky. They strike each other with such force that windows shatter in cities miles away. And for the first time in his life, Homelander feels something he has only ever inflicted upon others. He feels challenged. His punches connect. His lasers burn. His full strength, unleashed without restraint for perhaps the first time in years, actually reaches the man inside the armor. Doom is not untouchable. Doom is not invincible. Doom bleeds somewhere beneath the iron, and Homelander sees it. But Doom does not panic. Doom does not retreat. Doom smiles behind his mask in a way that no one in this universe will ever see. Because for the first time in a very long time, Dr. Doom is entertained. When the dust settles, the world expects another speech, another villain monologue, another armored figure standing on a pile of rubble, demanding obedience. Doom gives them none of this. Instead, he walks, slowly, through the broken streets, past the unconscious bodies of the Seven, past the shattered storefronts and the overturned cars and the news drones still hovering, still recording, still trembling in the wind of the battle that has just ended. He walks until he reaches the steps of what was once the Vought Tower, and there, in front of every camera on Earth, he stops. He does not raise his voice. He does not need to. The world is listening. He speaks of humanity. He speaks of a species that built cathedrals and then handed them to merchants. A species that invented democracy and then sold its votes to the highest bidder. A species that gazed upon the stars and then chose, again and again, to worship men in capes who could not even govern themselves. He does not insult them. That is what makes the speech unbearable. He speaks of them the way a disappointed father might speak of a child who could have been great. There is no cruelty in his voice. Only the quiet, dreadful weight of a man who has seen what humanity could be and what it has chosen to become instead. He tells them they created their heroes because they wanted saviors. He tells them they tolerated corruption because corruption felt safer than the burden of self-government. He tells them that every tyrant in their history was elected, eventually, by the silence of people too tired to resist. And then he offers them a choice. Accept his rule, or continue as they were. He does not threaten. He does not promise. He simply turns, his cloak sweeping the rubble behind him, and walks back into the ruins of the tower, leaving the question hanging in the air like smoke. The world erupts. In some cities there are protests. Crowds gather in the streets, holding signs, chanting slogans, demanding that the armored stranger leave their planet. In other cities there are different crowds, quieter ones. People who have lived their entire lives under Vought's lie, who have watched their leaders fail them, who have buried children killed by heroes that never faced consequences. These crowds do not chant. They simply watch the footage of Doom's speech again and again, and they begin to wonder, in the privacy of their own thoughts, whether a tyrant who is competent might be preferable to a democracy that is not. Governments fracture. Cabinets argue through the night. Generals quietly inventory their weapons and quietly conclude that none of them would matter. And in a basement somewhere in Brooklyn, Billy Butcher sits at a kitchen table with a bottle in front of him that he has not opened. and he stares at the wall as though the wall might answer him. He has spent his entire life believing that Homelander was the worst thing that could ever happen to this world. He built a team around that belief. He buried friends for that belief. He killed for that belief. Now he is not so sure. Homelander was a monster pretending to be a hero. That was a nightmare he understood. That was a nightmare he knew how to fight. Doom is something else. Doom is a ruler who actually rules. A man who does not pretend, who does not market, who does not need the approval of focus groups to justify his decisions. A man who, if allowed to win, will deliver exactly the order he promises. Crime will drop, wars will end, streets will be safe, and humanity will never choose again. Butcher stares at the unopened bottle, and for the first time in his life, he asks himself a question he never thought he would ask. If the only way to stop Doom is to leave Homelander alive, is the world worth saving on those terms? He does not know the answer. And somewhere across the city, behind a mask of iron, Dr. Doom waits, patient as stone, for humanity to decide whether it deserves to be free. The final battle does not begin with a challenge. It begins with a silence. Homelander rises into the sky above the ruined city, alone, his cape catching the last red light of a dying sun. He does not call for reinforcements. He does not address the cameras. He simply hangs in the air, waiting, because he knows, as Doom knows, that this confrontation was always going to end between the two of them. Doom ascends to meet him. He does not fly the way Homelander flies. He rises slowly, deliberately, as though gravity is a courtesy he extends only when it suits him. They meet at the height where clouds thin into nothing, two figures suspended above a world that has stopped breathing to watch them. There are no speeches. They have already said everything that needed to be said. Homelander believes that strength is entitlement, that power once possessed owes nothing to anyone, that the strong shape the world because they can and the weak accept it because they must. Doom believes that strength is dat. That power, once possessed, owes everything to those who cannot wield it. That the strong shape the world because they are obligated to, and the weak deserve a ruler who understands the weight of that obligation. These are not philosophies that can coexist. One of them must end today. The collision is brutal. It is cinematic. It is the kind of battle that historians will struggle to describe for centuries, because no language has yet been invented that can carry the weight of it. Lasers carve the clouds. Iron answers with fire. The sky itself seems to bruise where they meet. Homelander fights as he has always fought, with fury, with desperation disguised as confidence, with the wild, flailing strength of a child who has been told his entire life that he is a god and who refuses, even now, to accept that he is not. Doom fights as he has always fought, with patience, with precision, with the cold, unshakable certainty of a man who has already calculated every possible outcome and found himself standing in all of them. In the end, Homelander falls, not in fire, not in glory. He falls the way kings fall when their kingdoms have already left them, quietly, from a great height, into the rubble of a tower he could never truly hold. The world watches him hit the ground. There is no cheering. The dust settles. The camera is steady. And humanity looks upward and sees that the false god is gone, and sees that another figure now stands above them, perfectly still, perfectly calm, perfectly in command. Dr. Doom claims the throne that Homelander could never truly hold. In the months that follow, the world enters a new age. Crime rates collapse. Wars end, sometimes mid-sentence, as combatants put down their weapons rather than face the quiet, inevitable response of the new ruler. Corruption is rooted out with surgical precision. Streets become safe. Children walk to school without fear. The trains, for the first time in living memory, run on time. And freedom slowly, almost imperceptibly, begins to shrink. No one notices at first. The benefits are too obvious. The order is too welcome. It is only late at night, in private moments, that ordinary people begin to wonder when they last made a decision that was truly their own. The narrator's voice closes gently over the final image. Perhaps the greatest danger was never a monster pretending to be a hero. Perhaps the greatest danger was a ruler so effective that humanity, exhausted and grateful, willingly surrendered its future to him. And somewhere within his armored citadel, Dr. Doom gazes across his new empire. He is satisfied. For now.